What's poppin', y'all? Welcome to Post Finale. I am your host, Ankit Madhira. I'm an actor and a singer who has not seen a lot of films, so to make my friends happy and potentially provide a new perspective on some popular films, I am on a quest to change that. I'm never on this quest alone, however. This week, I am joined by the co-host of the Movie Smash podcast and the founder of Off Panel Creations, a nerdy furniture company, Chris Roberts. Chris, welcome. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Thanks for having me on here.
Of course. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for having me on your show as well. It was a pleasure when I was on talking about the Suicide Squad, and now you're here, and I'm excited to talk about The Matrix.
Yeah, this is a nice shift for me. Going from comic book movies to, classics.
Classics. Yeah, I have heard it's a classic. I don't really know much about it going into it. Everything I have known about this film, except for one thing, has happened.
Yeah, I actually saw this movie in theaters when it came out on opening weekend.
Okay.
So I can give you a little perspective of what it was like in that moment as well.
Yeah, what was that like? What is your experience with the film? So obviously, this is one that you picked and said, this is a film that I enjoy, one that I want to talk about. So you saw it opening weekend. What was your experience with it? Why do you keep coming back to this film?
Sure. So when I saw this, I was actually in college at the time, and it was one of those, we're bored, it's the weekend, what's playing? Oh, Matrix just came out, let's go take a look at it. I mean, all the advertising around this movie at the time was very much like, we cannot tell you what the Matrix is, you need to hear it yourself. And so the same way it is in the movie, where they allude to it, but they don't actually until later on, until he takes a pill, is he shown the Matrix.
Right.
The same thing is true in the trailers. You are alluded to what it is, but I actually went back and rewatched a trailer before coming on today, and they did a really good job of hiding what it really was about. But it came out at the same time other movies of the same sort of vein came out. There was like Dark City, Existence, The 13th Floor, Equilibrium. All those came out around that time period, and they all had the same premise of, what if this wasn't real? And so it was just, when I went to go see it, it was like, oh, it's gonna be like one of those movies. And it was, but it took it to a whole nother level.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard of anything you just said in that entire list. So that's why this show exists, because I've legitimately not seen many films.
If you like this movie, I'd say you should really go out, look for Dark City, look for Existence, look for The 13th Floor, look for Equilibrium. And it's got actors you know and love, but it's this premise of type of movie.
Okay. I am enjoying this film so far to what I have seen. I say we jump into it. Just a quick update of what I think is going on and what my prediction is of what is going to happen soon. I don't know how much this is gonna be true, but I think a rabbit hole is gonna go very deep. Like this rabbit hole, I like the whole Alice by Wonderland simile and metaphor that they have going on here. I was saying it in the last episode, it's a story that most people in the world have at least heard of, and so I like the metaphor of using that, and most people are able to connect to it. Very smart writing there. So I think this rabbit hole is going to go very deep. I feel like there's got to be some device. I know that they said there isn't a device, but there has to be some sort of device or some way that you can reveal the Matrix to the others. And like the people that can't see the Matrix, as we've understood so far, there needs to be a way. Because otherwise, why would the suits call Morpheus a terrorist? And why would these people be calling Morpheus a terrorist and not want to work with him? And it's like, okay, if nobody else can fight, though, then it feels like the rebellion doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So I'm not really sure what's going on there, because I'm like, okay, you can't raise an army to fight the rebellion because you can't show the people what you want to show them, but then like you still need to save them. So I'm very confused on what the problem actually is. I'm pretty sure it's a rebellion of sorts, but I'm still confused on what's going on because they haven't explained this to me yet. Hopefully we get some answers. I'm very positive that the suits are corrupt in some way, shape, or form, and there will be a lot of fighting, some cool effects, And in the end, Neo and company will win, but it will be a short-lived victory and a bitter victory. My current working theory is that Trinity dies at the end of the movie. We'll see how this
We'll
goes.
see how it goes.
We'll see how this goes. I appreciate that you still can't say a lot, but you are going to be able to say slightly more because I learn more things as we move along. So, where we're at in the film, we learn that time is always against us. And they have Neo take a seat and they hook him up to a bunch of wires. And the pill is part of a trace program designed to disrupt his carrier signal so they can pinpoint his location. I'm sorry, what?
Well, I think that's the point. The point of the whole thing is it's all supposed to be Alice through the looking glass feeling to it. Like you don't. It's everything is strange, but will it all make sense at the end of the day? And when they wrote this movie, they're trying to keep it very grounded, air quotes there, as much as possible. But yeah, it's. I can understand the confusion around that, but it's really like it's supposed to give you a sense of confusion. Like yet again, the movie ties into what is real, what is not real.
Yeah, and I think this movie is doing a very good job of something that, and I've complained about this a lot recently, not saying that I'm much better, and that I can necessarily write better, but I feel like movies previously, in the past, used to treat audiences like they were smart. Like, this movie is like, all right, I'm gonna just tell you this information, and you don't know what's going on. And I think the reason Neo works as a character is that we are seeing this world and experiencing this world through Neo. And it's like, okay, we know exactly what Neo knows. There is a specific type of character this is, and I can't remember what the official English terminology name is for this type of view into a story, but it is a very compelling reason that we're able to come in and be like, okay, our main character doesn't know. We also don't know. But then it's like, we'll find out. And it's okay if you don't find out. Because it's just like, some things we just can't tell you. You're going to have to experience it, and then you'll figure it out when you do.
Yeah, Neo is definitely the proxy for the audience in this story. And he definitely, you're right, he's learning as he goes along. And it's funny you say about that. They used to think audiences were smarter. There was an actual whole thing about how there's a lot of exposition that's dumped onto us, and then shortly coming up. And it was put in there because the studio did not think the audience was smart enough to figure this out.
I mean, that's fair. That's very valid. But I think what I mean by like they're smarter is we don't need that instant gratification.
Yeah.
Like we do now. And it's the film isn't afraid to be like posing a question of what is the Matrix? We still don't really have an answer. We have half an answer, but we don't really know what it is yet. We're still figuring this out. And I like that it's like, it's okay. You can sit in the uneasiness. You will learn what this is. I promise you, you will know what the Matrix is by the end of the movie. But, like, it's okay. We'll take our time. We'll get there. Whereas now, and it's not all films, but a majority of films, I feel there is no suspense. You leave instant gratification is just on the table. And you get answers right away, or it's like you don't need the scene. You can leave it vague. You don't need this much exposition in this moment. Like you can tell us later, show us later rather than tell us. That's the big thing, is show us and not tell us. So,
oh, yeah. Definitely. It's like the current show that's out right now is Severance. Same way. Like there's this huge mystery behind it. You're not sure what it is. Not to spoil it or anything like that. But the same thing is with Matrix is that you're right. You're learning throughout the premise of the whole movie, and you may learn things, you may not learn things. But it's kind of like life too. Like life, you will not know everything. And this guy's rediscovering what life is all really about.
Exactly. And speaking of Severance, I've heard of the show. Everyone at rehearsals is talking about the show. I have never seen an episode. I just currently don't have the time. And so I told people that anytime that topic walks up, I just walk away because I'm like, okay, all of you have told me to watch this. so I'm just gonna walk away so that I can't be spoiled by anything.
I'm actually going to another show. I think it's next week to discuss Severance, and it's if you do get into it, it's just a slow burn. Expect it's going to take a long time to get answers.
Wonderful. I like not having answers. I like mystery shows. I like detective stuff. I like fantasy worlds. I have no idea what anything is about in Severance, but I like the step stuff. So let's figure it out.
Yep.
Anyway, back to The Matrix, which is what we're actually talking about on this podcast. So, then Neo also at the same time is like, "What are you talking about, Morpheus? Like you are talking crazy things." And the person that we learn very soon that his name is Cypher, but I named him Stash in this moment. And he goes, "It means buckle your seatbelt, Dorothy, because Kansas is going bye-bye." And then you just have the thunder on cue. And I was like, the thunder is a paid actor. We have it looking all ominous and such. And then Neo settles in, glances over into a broken mirror, and then sees the mirror move like water. It has the ripple effect that you normally see in a pond when he reaches out and touches the mirror. Morpheus asks Neo if he has ever had a dream that he knew for sure was real. And what if you were able to wake from that dream? How would you know the difference? Would you know the difference between the real world and the dream world? Incredible questions. On the other side, incredible camera shot and great editing for the mirror shot. It was very cool because the mirror is going in and out of different morphing, and it kind of like was looking like a fun mirror the entire time that you were looking into it. But also, I have never been on a set where they've made like this direct on camera shot, and I don't know how they actually do this one. Chris, I don't know if you know how they do this type of shot in films. Great. If anyone listening knows how they do this, let me know, because I've only ever done camera shots where it's on an angle, and so it's easy to hide the camera in the angle of the mirror. But I don't know how you hide a camera when it's one of these straight on shots. So maybe this is all done later
Now,
and the camera's edited out.
I do know in the movie Terminator 2, the way they did it was it wasn't a mirror. Arnold Schwarzenegger was on the other side of the open glass, and they're filming across the back of a stunt double.
Okay.
So that way you get this direct on mirror shot, but it's not actually a mirror, just looking at directly at the actor, face on, just over the back of the stunt double.
Maybe that's what they did.
Maybe, but like I don't know what it is for this movie. I just know what it was for Terminator 2, that is.
I've seen Terminator 1. Yeah, I haven't seen the second one yet. It's on the list.
On the list.
I don't know. I'll get to it at some point. Maybe. Yeah. So, I just wanted to point that out because it was a cool shot. The liquid and the glass / metal. I don't even know if it's glass or metal. It's like a liquid metal is what I'm thinking at this point. Is what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
But it might be liquid glass because it was a mirror. But it starts to morph itself onto Neo. And my immediate thought, and I thought you'd get a kick out of this as a comic book host, podcast host, and I was like, oh, it's just like the symbiote in Spider-Man 3 for Venom.
Yeah, it's sort of just crawling up his body.
Yeah, it just crawls up his body. I was like, great, lovely. And Neo starts going into what they call replication. The metal is cold, and now I guess I'm calling it metal. Maybe it's glass. I don't know. If you feel very strongly about this, listeners, let me know. But I'm calling it metal. And the metal's trying to like take him over. It almost looked like the metal was trying to take over his body. It felt like, or at least this was the vibe that I was getting. Did I misread that, or? I
think because it's essentially trying to close him out. I think it's so the Matrix will reject him. Because that's the whole point of this. What they're trying to do is, I'm not sure if you talked about it, but he just took a pill to create a tracer so they could find him within the Matrix. But at the same time, he's got to be rejected by that Matrix. And I think what this is doing is that's rejecting him. They've got to find him before the rejection is complete, or they won't be there to catch him, essentially.
Okay. So if they're not there by pretty much this point, he can't be saved. is how we can look at it. Okay, great. That was my general take on it. Is I was like, okay, I'm not quite sure that I didn't understand that it was like, rejecting him, but I understood that it was time limit. So Morpheus tells Tank that they are going to need a signal soon. Incredible technology here. He hits the button and then immediately speaks. I've used speed dial before, and usually you have to hit the button, wait for a ring, and then there's an answer. Not hit a button, here's what I need. Like, that's not how speed dial works.
Well, we are a little bit in the future at this point.
I did then realize that it's like, oh, very soon afterwards, I was like, oh, this is advanced technology. But then, like, to blend into the fake world, they're using the current technology. Okay, this was my justification for why everything still looks like it is 1999 technology when it is advanced technology. So,
I'm gonna hold back on commenting from that because I don't want to spoil anything for you.
Fair enough. I appreciate it. We'll move on. So, Morpheus tells Tank now, and then a button gets hit. We get a shot that looks like we are going inside Neo's mouth, and now it looks like we are with Neo inside a cocoon, and he's strapped to a bunch of wires. And then I was like, oh, wait, is this him breaking out of the simulation that they were talking about earlier? Neo bursts out of this cocoon, and he has goo everywhere, as one does when they burst out of a cocoon. And he goes in to start unplugging the cords, but stops when he looks out and sees that there are pods of people as far and as deep as the eye can see, which is incredible and very disturbing.
Yeah, he's looking across the farmland of all the pods,
Yeah. I mean, look, if we want to think that there's a farmland of all the pods now, no, he's not looking at the farmland right now, is he?
He's looking at he's looking across at the other columns, I think, isn't he?
Yeah, he's looking at the other columns. I guess that is called the farmland because later I think what we'll talk about is the fields.
Yes.
Is what it is. So maybe this is the farmland. I'm not quite sure. I didn't catch the name for it. But yeah, he's looking at all those columns. Which, like, fair enough. Because, like, if we're currently living in a simulation, that's 8.25 billion, something along those lines of just number of pods.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, they building fast, and there are a lot of them. So anyway, he's looking out at all of these pods and gets frozen. And then a spider bot appears and grabs Neo by the throat. This is what I called it. I couldn't quite tell what it was. It's some futuristic machine.
Yeah.
It looked like a spider. And it starts to suffocate him. It looks like it is going in for the kill. But then the cord on the back of Neo's neck gets disconnected. And the spider breaks away. And all the rest of the cords on Neo get pulled off. And his pod, along with him, are drained. And he falls into what looks like a sewer. And then there is a giant claw, just like Toy Story 2. And it descends in from the sky and grabs him out. Cool. Morpheus tells Neo that welcome to the real world. And Neo then seemingly passes out. I really hope we start getting some answers because I'm real confused.
Yeah.
I don't really know what's going on, and like I'm okay with it, but like I would like some answers, just one or two. Why are we in a sewer? What's going on? Was everything we knew just fake? What?
Well, essentially, what happens is remember we talked about that goo going over his body. The effect from Terminator 2. It covers his body and it's forcing the machine to want to reject him. So the machine is feeling like, oh, this body is dead. That's why he unplugs it all, and it literally flushes him down the toilet like you would a goldfish. And that's where they find him, is in the sewer with all the other remains of dead bodies.
Okay, so that's why he got flushed. I didn't understand why he got flushed. I thought it was something that our team did.
Well, that tracer thing they sent out so they can find him, but at the same time, it forced the machine to think that Neo is dead. Now, why keep this dead body around? and they literally just
Right.
flush him like a goldfish. So yeah, that's why the machine doesn't like strangle him to death, because it already thinks he's dead. It's just unplugging him.
Okay, that's what the machine was doing.
hmm
Okay.
You're supposed to think it's like this evil creature that's there. It's like, no, just doing a job. It unplugs it, sends it away, flushes away, and it'll fill the pod later on.
Okay. Yeah, that makes complete sense. Okay. I've now processed why the spider bot existed. And that makes sense of why it just left
Mhm.
when the cord got unplugged. Because then it was like, all right, my job's done. I can head out.
Yep.
Like, the rest will take care of itself and we're all good. Okay. Makes sense. Now, we have a very bright light, and Morpheus is telling Trinity that they did it. They found him, and he knows it. Neo asks if he is dead, and Morpheus says, far from it. We see Neo in a pod, and very different type of pod. This one's more like an incubator. And there are tons of spikes on his body. And what we learn is that his muscles have atrophied.
Atrophied. Yep.
Do you know what this is?
Yeah, essentially, let's say you were in a coma and you were asleep for a very long time. Your muscles stop working. Your body stops sending nutrients to them. So, your muscles are only strong because you use them constantly, and the building up and breaking out of fibers within them. So what happens is, because and as he said, you've never used your muscles. It means that it's alluding to the fact that Neo was born inside the system. He has never been outside the system. He wasn't like a human, like one of us that just got sucked in and got plugged in. He's been there since he was an infant, since he was born. So he's never used those muscles. So because of that, the body's never sent nutrients to them to nourish them, to get them to be able to move. He won't be able to carry his own weight without the muscles, because your muscles are trained to carry your size, no matter how big you are, 120 pounds to 350. They learn to carry your weight because you're using them constantly, and they're constantly being built up. But because he has always lived within this pod his entire life, they've never gotten those nutrients. They've never been built up. So he couldn't even move if he wanted to. It's basically when someone's bedridden, same thing. They literally just cannot move.
Okay. That makes sense then of what is told, because like his eyes hurt because he's never used them before. And then, it's like, hey, rest, answers are coming, but you're gonna need your health, and this is gonna happen. Okay. I've just never heard of this happening before. So, okay, this makes complete sense. Yeah. And then it continues on for a bit. The process of bringing Neo to full health. We have a fun little montage. I wanted to give a shout out to the props department. I wanted to give a shout out to the makeup team for all the beautiful bumps on Neo during the acupuncture scene bit. I guess that's what you can call it. When they had all the pins in him, and he had like all the bumps on his body. Well done by that makeup team, because that probably was not a fun day. And props to Keanu Reeves for sitting through that.
Yeah, I don't think it was fun for anybody.
I don't think anyone was having fun that day.
Yeah.
It was, all right, lay on the table for a few hours. So, just a shout out to the wonderful people behind the scenes that make the film very good. Now, Neo wakes up, and he has hair now to show that time has passed. Aw, how sweet. And he pulls out a metal rod in his arm, because that is always the first thing that you do when you wake up and you don't know why you're strapped up to some wires, is that you pull them out. I have never done this in real life.
Well, it's what you always see with action stars. So they find themselves in a hospital bed, they pull the IV out so they can move around. It's just a trope.
It's a beautiful trope. I love the trope. I laugh at the trope every time the trope happens because of how ridiculous the trope is. Now, he feels on the back of his head where there is a node where the plug used to be. Just as he's about to touch it, Morpheus walks in. And Neo asks, what happened to me? What is this place? And Morpheus says, more important than what? When is this place? Morpheus explains that Neo believes it is 1999, but it is actually closer to the year 2199. He can't tell exactly what year it is because honestly, they don't know. Morpheus says that there is nothing he can say that will explain it, and he must see it for himself. Just like life. There's nothing he can do to tell you how it's going to go. You can just be like, well, I can show you.
It's funny too. It feels like almost like lazy writing a little bit. Like, oh, I don't want to figure out the backstory for this. But at the same time, it doesn't, because it does give you a sense of like they may not even know what happened and how they got here. It's been 100 years or so.
Right. And I like that the explanation that we get shortly is he's like, hey, we have just holes in our history,
Mhm.
which is completely fair. I mean, like, if we look at something and what, from 2000 years ago? So that's right around the start of like 1 AD.
Mhm.
Like, we don't know. We have gaps in our history. So it makes complete sense that they would have gaps in their history if we are 2000 years in the future. It's like, yeah, that makes complete sense to me of like, okay, we think we're around this time frame. We don't fully know. It's just like now archaeologists, they'll dig something up and then be like, "Hey, this is somewhere in the it 180 to 300 AD, but we don't know when. Like it's
Yeah.
somewhere in this 200-year span, but we can't pinpoint exactly when it is." Completely fair.
Now, the interesting thing is, after this movie came out, but before the second one, there was a series of online videos that you can actually get on DVD called the Animatrix, and it's little
Ooh.
vignettes of stories taking place within the Matrix, and two of them are actually the story of how we got to this point in history, told from the archives of the robots, of the AIs.
Interesting.
And it's a very interesting piece. So you learn the history from their perspective of why the world looks like the way it does, why there's this matrix, why is the sky blackened, why is history full of holes, and they explain all that. So I mean, there are answers for all those things if you trust that narrative. But yeah, they so the writers of this actually did spend some time figuring out what actually did happen, at least from a point of view, and then
Right.
that of how we got to this point.
I think it's important as a writer and as an actor when we go in, we need to know what's going on in terms of like understanding the story just so that it's like, okay, what can we play with and what do we know as fact? What do we know as fiction? Whether the audience finds out all of this information, we don't necessarily know, but like we need to know our motivations. And then the audience might have a different read on it, and that's okay. But I like that the writers went in and they're like, okay, even if we don't tell the audience the full history,
Mhm.
we need to know what's going on as the writers so that we don't break our own continuity.
Yeah, which is I like that method versus like the JJ Abrams method, which is the mystery box, where he doesn't even know the answers. He just like, it's all about the mystery, and we'll figure it out together as we go along. I believe it creates a tighter story when actually it's all figured out in advance. Because I think the point of a good story is a good cohesive story, not like, I'm not on the journey with you, guy, whoever wrote it. I want you to tell me the story you've created. I don't want.
Yeah, totally. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut
Oh
you
no,
off there.
it's just basically saying like, it's like, my wife's a writer as well, so she's got a couple novels out there, and the amount of backstory created for those books is more than the books themselves, and that's how it really should be, because you're creating worlds, or creating, at least scenarios that take place in this within this world. There's got to be some backstory to it. So that's
Right.
what I like what they did in this movie is, like I said, for your listeners and yourself, if you get a chance, go look up the Animatrix. It's several small vignettes. They're really good, and they give you perspectives of sort of slice of life within the Matrix, as well as here's the deep lore of how this all came about. It will
Okay.
answer any questions you're missing after you see this movie.
Lovely. Then I will definitely put it on the list of things to do after I watch the film.
Exactly.
Because currently, all I know is that it is about a 2 hour and 15-minute run, and I can watch it online. That's
Yep.
all I look up beforehand. So I specifically don't look up anything like the trailer to make sure I don't get spoiled by anything. So where we are is we're on Morpheus's ship, and this is the Nebuchadnezzar. I think I pronounced that right.
Nebuchadnezzar.
Nebuchadnezzar. It's a hovercraft, and the main deck is filled with people that are working. We see a plaque, Mark III, number 11, Nebuchadnezzar, made in the U.S. year 2069. And it's like, okay, so that means that this ship is very old. Morpheus, very old, potentially. Because if he made this ship, then that is very old. Or maybe he inherited the ship. I'm not quite sure. Um, but it's one of the two. I feel like he most likely inherited the ship and that he was not around in 2069 when this ship was built.
Yeah.
But if he was, I don't know, maybe time works differently too. I've already understood that physics doesn't mean anything in this world, so maybe time is truly a construct in this world as well. And maybe he was around in 2069 when this was built. I don't know. So the core is where they broadcast their pirate signal and hack into the Matrix. Most of his crew Neo already knows. We see Trinity, who stands and takes her welding helmet off and then swoops her hair back in all like the, ooh, look at me, I'm cool working sexy way. And then we meet Apox, Switch, and Cypher, and Tank and his big brother Dozer. And then my initial reaction the moment he said and his big brother was, one of them is going to die. One of them is going to see the other die. Maybe they will have to make a sacrifice and lose their brother so that the mission can continue. I really hope it's a sacrifice and one brother has to sacrifice the other brother, because that just means higher stakes, and that sounds fun. I don't want either of them to die, but one of them's gonna die.
Yeah.
I don't know which one, but one of them's gonna die.
It makes
and then you have Mouse.
Mouse. But see, yeah, the brother thing, it's an easy way to write stakes into a without having to spend the time making us like the guy. We can like one or the other through their own love of each other's brothers.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, we understand that they're siblings.
Mhm.
Cool. They have a love for each other, even if they don't necessarily show it on screen. It's like, okay, there's that underlying understanding that, like, yes,
Yep.
you are allowed to have emotions to your brother. Now, Trinity guides Neo over to a chair. They hook him up to some gadgets and they go, try and relax, which is the worst thing to say to anyone that needs to relax. And Morpheus warns that it will feel a little weird, and Neo's eyes widen into a silent but guttural scream. And then we are all calm and in a beautiful white space. Okay, cool. I'm very confused. We learned that this is the construct, our loading program. They can load anything from clothing, equipment, weapons, training simulations, anything they really need into this program. Neo asks if they are inside a computer program, and Morpheus is just like, is it really that hard to believe? Yes, Morpheus. Yes, it is. Otherwise, he wouldn't be asking the question. This is why he asks things. Now, Neo's hair is different. The plugs are gone. Everything has changed about him. How he looks now is what they call residual self-image. It is the mental projection of one's digital self. Now, the set right now I thought was very interesting because we have 2 chairs and an old deep image radiola television. This felt important. I don't know why I needed to write out what type of television it was, but I've done this now.
It's to give it the old-timey feel. It's like basically,
Yeah.
let's sit around, you're going to get a story, and it's time to learn your lesson today.
Time to sit down. We're going to teach you.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, Neo says that none of this is real. And I was like, well, he's going to use the TV to explain to you how all of this is real. And Morpheus says, what is real? How do you define real? If you are talking about what you can feel, smell, taste, and touch, and then that is all just really a simple electrical signal interpreted by your brain. Yeah, fair enough. He turns on the TV. The world as you know it, the end of the 20th century. It exists now as only a neural interactive simulation called The Matrix. Morpheus says that Neo has been in this dream world, and this is the world as it exists today. He switches the channel on the TV, and we see a decrepit wasteland where nothing can survive. And of course, there is lightning and thunder because ominous.
That's how you know it's
said-
serious.
Huh?
That's how you know it's serious.
Oh, yeah. That's how you know. Like, look, if you had a little Jack in the Box pop out, very different vibe.
Mhm.
Like, we got to know it's serious. This is not fun. We welcome them to the desert of the real, and I was like, oh, okay. We're in 2199 now. I've processed where we are. I was like, where are we? What's going on? Okay, we are in the real world, I guess, of what they're saying Earth looks like now.
Yeah.
In this time. Which, based on how we're going, we'll see. 2199. I don't know how this is gonna look, but things ain't looking great for us. Maybe this movie just truly predicted the future. I don't know. Morpheus says that they only have bits and pieces of information, but these are what they know for certain. Somewhere in the early 21st century, aka when we are right now,
I know.
all mankind was united in celebration. We marveled at our own magnificence as we gave birth to AI. And again, this is where I was like, did this movie completely just predict the future? Is our future just going to be AI taking over the world? AI is an entire conversation that I can get into. I love it. I hate it. It's a bag of mixed feelings.
Yeah, it's of course the AI. At least me, I feel personally, the AI we have currently is sort of like a shoddy comparison of what they're talking about on the Matrix. Like it's basically a very fancy chatbot at this point. But
I'm okay with that level of AI.
Yeah.
I'm okay with this level of AI.
But not Skynet levels.
Yeah, we're getting to that.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. I'll keep using AI to reword my emails and hi, make this sound professional because
write me a draft.
Yeah. Well, no, I'll usually write the draft and I'll write everything I need and I'll format it and be like, all right, I want this to go first. And so I'll write it and then just be like, I've probably written this in passive voice and everything. And hi, can you just reword this so it sounds professional and not like I've, thrown this together at 12:30 at night as I'm writing this email. So can you just make sure that I also didn't throw massive spelling errors into it? So I'll use it for that, and I use it for some other things as well. It is helpful.
It's a good tool.
It is a good tool, but we need to tread carefully is all I will say. Otherwise, the Matrix might happen.
Very true.
So that's all I'm going to say. Now, AI, for anyone that doesn't know what it is artificial intelligence. And in this world, it was a singular consciousness that raised an army of machines. We don't know who struck first, us or them, but we do know that it was us that scorched the sun. I'm sorry, how does one scorch the sun?
No,
what does this mean?
They scorch the skies. They blacken the sun out. The AI robots.
The sky.
Yeah, so the AI robots were solar powered at that point. So they said, so humans in their infinite wisdom said, well, you need the sun to power it, so we're just gonna blacken out the skies. We'll be fine-ish, I guess. So
Right. This was the other problem I had. We can't live without the sun either. Did all the smart people die at the beginning of the 21st century in this world? Did nobody realize that we also need the sun to live?
Yeah, well, so if you go back to the Animatrix, they do talk about how it's a desperate thing. It's sort of like, you're gonna kill me, and I'm gonna kill. I know I'm going to lose. I'm going to make you lose too. And that was the plan the humans had. Essentially, was it's over for us. We're wiped out. But because of that, at least I'm going to make you feel my pain.
I'm taking you out in a blaze of glory.
Exactly. And then so they decided to blacken out the sky, making it so nuclear winter, so that they can no longer be solar powered. It would eventually shut down, and maybe some humans would survive. Maybe.
Okay. I got really annoyed though, because I was like, all the dumb people seem to make all the decisions, and then apparently nobody was listening to, I don't know, scientists or general logic of we don't need the sun, we'll be okay. Humans need the sun.
Yeah.
I then also wrote in my notes again, then again, ... we live in the time that we live now. Moving on.
One question I do have for you is, now that you've seen inside the Matrix and outside the Matrix, did you notice the color palettes change between the two areas?
It feels darker outside the Matrix?
Yeah, so it's a lot of greens inside the matrix and a lot of blues outside, darker
Okay.
blues. And that's to help you understand where you are in the movie. Are you inside the matrix? Are you outside the matrix at that
Okay.
moment? In fact, when they were filming the inside the matrix scenes, they made sure that any blue was wiped out before they started filming. Like they put sheets over things. So in some
Mm,
buildings, we see that like there's a tarp over something because there was some blue there they couldn't get rid of. And they want to make sure that
okay.
inside the matrix it's always green-ish, and outside more blue, more real. And because you
Interesting.
remember the old monitors, at least when I was a kid in middle school, the old monitors you have for your computers, it was always a green on black background. There was always that tinge of green to it. So yet again,
Yeah,
inside this matrix, there's a tinge of green.
that makes sense. I will say I didn't notice the color palette change, but also I am partially colorblind, so colors are not normally the first thing that I notice, especially when it's like a subtle thing like this potentially. But I'm glad that they did it, and maybe my brain processed it without realizing it,
Yep.
because I have not been confused of when we are in the Matrix and when we are not so far.
So
I
far.
have understood so far when we are in a matrix, when we are in a training simulation, and when we're not in a matrix. So like I've understood, and maybe my brain just like put this together, but I didn't actively notice
And that's
the
why in the
color
loading
palette
zone it's
change.
all white. It's a third color scheme to everything.
That makes complete sense. Now, throughout human history, we have been dependent on machines to survive. Fate, it seems, is not without a sense of irony. Thunder, and the sky changes to red. Very cool transition. The thunder is still a paid actor. The human body generates more bioelectricity than a 120-volt battery and over 25,000 BTUs of body heat. Combined with a form of fusion, the machines had found all the energy they would ever need. The machines look like bugs, and this is where I finally clocked what my guest for the last episode, Adam, was alluding to when we were talking about Agent Smith. Because we were talking about Agent Smith's voice and his cadence and the way that he speaks. And I put together that he speaks in a very robotic way. This makes complete sense. Agent Smith is a machine, he's not a real human.
Yep.
And I was like, this is what Adam was alluding to. And credit to Adam. He just said, well, without giving too much away, but like he does speak with an interesting cadence. And he just kind of like tossed it up there. He gave me the layup, and then I slammed it down and was like, aha, I have figured this out. It's robotic, right? So like credit to Adam there. But I finally figured out what we were talking about.
So you finally figure out that the reason why this matrix is set up is that they need our bodies to power. Basically, we're potato batteries.
Yeah. So basically, what we learn is that there are endless fields. Humans are no longer born, they are bred and grown. And we are just batteries for these machines to exist. For the longest time, Morpheus didn't believe it either, but then he saw the fields with his own eyes. He watched them liquefy the dead so they could be fed intravenously to the living, facing the pure, horrifying precision. He came to realize the obviousness of the truth. Beautiful. Do you know what intravenously is?
I think it's
Do
the
you know?
goo that's around them.
Oh, okay. Great.
Now,
Again, there's so many words in this film that I've just never heard of.
it reminds me. Okay, first off, I love the writing in this movie, and Lawrence Fishburne does an amazing job pulling these lines off. These lines spoken by anybody else would sound like an edgy middle schooler trying to be cool.
Oh yeah.
But he can
Oh
pull it
yeah.
off for some reason. The other thing is, in the original script, batteries was not the reason they did this. They wanted our computing power. So because
Oh.
we are terrible batteries, and actually Neil deGrasse Tyson actually came out and did a whole thing on why we'd make terrible batteries for the Matrix. So, but the original script, we were the computers ourselves. They were plugins in the Matrix. They use our computing power to take the AI to the next level. But they thought yet again the producers came in and said people won't understand that humans are just computers of meat. They won't understand that. Make us batteries. That makes more sense. So
Okay.
that was not the original script.
That makes a whole lot of sense now. But I mean, yeah, I don't know if we are the battery people, I don't know, go watch that Neil deGrasse Tyson video. He's probably more educated on if we would actually be batteries or not. I don't know. I'm just going based on what the film told me,
Yep.
and according to the film, we're
We are
great at
batteries.
being a
Yeah.
battery. Now, Neo looking skeptical, fair enough. We learned that the Matrix is control, and then we are back in our white room and TV is off. The Matrix is a computer-generated dream world built to keep us under control in order to change the human being into this, and he holds up a 120-volt battery. Neo says that none of this is possible. Morpheus says that it would be easy. Morpheus says that he never said any of this would be easy. He just said that it would be the truth. Neo tells him to stop, to let him out. He wants out. Neo wakes up. Trinity and Dozer are holding him down, trying to calm him down. Neo tries to get up, and he breaks free from them. He says that he doesn't want to believe. He starts getting dizzy. His vision blurs. Cypher says that he's going to pop. Morpheus tells him to breathe. Neo kind of does. He throws up and passes out. As one does. Fair enough. He's been through a lot. So we're going to take a quick intermission, and then we will be right back into this and figure out what happens when he wakes up. I don't know. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Post Finale as we go through the Matrix movie. If you are enjoying this episode, please leave a like, a comment, a review, a rating, subscribe, follow us. It really does help out whatever platform you are listening on, or if you are on YouTube and you are watching us on YouTube. It really does help us out a lot. And thank you all to everyone who has already done that. Thank you to anyone who will do that in the future. If you want to gain access to some bonus content, you can do so. Head over to patreon.com/coopforge. So that's patreon.com/CO_OPFORGE. Sign up for any of the tiers there, and you get different bonus content. We're changing how some of the content looks on there, but you get content not just for this show, but you also get content for Flip the Scripts, which is our other show here with Co-op Forge. So you get content for all of that bonus content available there, and you get a shout out on both of our shows. And thank you all so much for supporting. If you are not able to support in a monetary way, but you still want to support the show in a non-monetary way, that is fantastic. Please tell a friend about the show. Reach out and be like, hey, there's this actor and singer who hasn't seen a lot of films, and so he's watching films for the first time and guessing what's going on, and it's a fun time overall. Go check it out. It really does help us out a lot. Be sure follow us on social media at Co-op Forge, CO_OPFORGE on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook, and at Post Finale Pod on Instagram. Be sure follow us, talk about us on social media. That helps us out a lot as well. But just thank you so much for listening to this episode. And I say, let's get back into it But thank you so much for listening to this episode. And before we jump back into talking about The Matrix, I just got one other housekeeping thing. If you are all listening to this and would like to come see me as Oliver in a production of Oliver in Seattle, that is happening March 21st through April 5th. The link to tickets and more information for that is down in the description. It's a really fun production, and we're having a lot of fun with it. So be sure, come check that out if you're in the Seattle area, March 21st through April 5th. And if you are coming to the show, let me know, and I would love to meet up afterwards. But thank you so much for listening to this episode, and let's get back into talking about The Matrix. So we're back, and Neo's waking up, and he realizes that he can't go back. And, he is then posed the question, if he could go back, would you really want to? Fair enough. Morpheus offers an apology. They have a rule that they never free a mind once it's reached a certain age. It is dangerous, and the mind has trouble letting go what it has seen, and the mind has trouble letting go, and he has seen it before. Now, he did what he had to do because he had to do it. Oh no, we've never heard that justification before. I had to do it. No, you didn't. You could have done something else. Maybe Morpheus really couldn't, but I love the trope of this one.
Yeah.
I did what I had to do because I had to. Okay, sure. Now, Morpheus tells Neo that when the Matrix was first built, there was a man born inside who had the ability to change whatever he wanted to remake the Matrix as he saw fit. It was he who freed the first of us and taught us the truth. So I'm thinking this was this man's original ship in 2069, and then Morpheus got the ship, or like, this is my thought process here. But also, I don't know, Morpheus might just be really old, guys. I'm confused. Because also, if he's part of the first group, who built the ship for this poor guy if it wasn't Morpheus and crew? So maybe Morpheus is really old. I'm still baffled by this. I really want an answer on how old Morpheus is. I don't think I'm going to get it, but I would really like an answer of how old Morpheus is.
Well, I think if you yet again those animated movies that came out, the vignettes. There's one called The Final Flight of the Osiris. That one helps you get a different view of what these ships are, where they came from, and their purpose as well.
Okay,
I'm not trying to go watch this one for you. I'm not trying to give you too much backstory, but that's a great source for you.
Look, I like that you were just like, here is the information.
Mhm.
Go do your research on your own time.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. It's like, this is where you can find your answers.
Well, because I want you to
don't find them in the
experience what
film.
we experienced. At that time when I went to see this movie, all that extra stuff wasn't there. This was all, mystery. It was all confusion. It was all like, what am I watching here? So
Right.
that's why you don't do the research till after you're done.
And that's why I love doing this show, is I'm like, okay, great. This is fun things that I get to talk about with people that like these films. I have no idea what's going on. I hope people listening enjoy it. But yeah, so I'm very confused, and I like learning about them and figuring out what's going on in all of these different worlds. And we learned that as long as the Matrix exists, the human race will never be free. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go on a limb here and say, spoiler alert, you're not going to succeed at destroying the Matrix in this film because there are sequels. And so the human race is just going to be trapped in this damned simulation run by AI insects for, I guess, the next 4 films, because I think there are 4 films of the Matrix. I don't know. This is what I'm thinking, right?
Yeah.
I don't actually know what happens in 2, 3, and 4.
Well,
I don't know what happens in the rest of this one.
To give you peace of mind, when this movie was originally crafted, it was originally crafted as a trilogy. I think the 4th one's really just a money grab, but it was written as a trilogy. So, yeah.
Okay. So maybe it moves forward, and it's maybe I do need to watch the whole trilogy, because it might be one of those where it's like, no, we've thought out the whole movie. Like, it's like, here's Lord of the Rings. We've thought out everything. You are getting all 3 movies.
Yeah, it's watching a Bilbo Baggins enter Mordor and be like, he'll never defeat Sauron.
Yeah. Yeah, he will, but like in 2 films.
In 2 films.
You have 6 hours to sit through. I'm sorry, that was rude. 8 hours to sit through, because the extended version is the only way to watch those films.
Only way.
My mom wanted to sit down and watch the films with me, and my sister, shout out to her because she listens to the show, but she was like, hey mom, I'll sit and watch with you, and she was like, no, this one's for him. And I was like, yes, I get the Lord of the Rings.
Well, it's funny, when I went to go see that movie, the first one, with my wife at the time, she never read the books or anything new about them, and it ends with Bilbo entering Mordor, and that's where the movie ends. And she like screamed. She's like, that's it? That's what I sat through, was 2 hours of having just go on
for the Hobbit one?
Yeah. No, about the first Lord of the Rings movie.
Oh, Frodo doesn't.
Not Frodo, sorry, Bilbo. No, it's Frodo.
Yeah. Well, no, because the first one, spoiler alert for anyone who hasn't seen the Lord of the Rings franchise, skip forward, I guess, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But the first one ends with Boromir dying, and then Frodo and Sam splitting off from the group, and then Gimli, Legolas, and Aragorn going to save Merry and Pippin.
Yep.
But if you're talking about the Hobbit,
no, Frodo and Sam are sorry, they just go on their own way.
Oh,
that's what I'm talking about.
That's what your wife was like. Yeah. What is going on? Okay.
Yeah.
Because my mom had the same reaction when we went to go see the first Hobbit movie.
Oh, okay.
Where we went to go see the movie, the dragon eye opens at the end of the movie, and then my mom goes, "That's it? That's the end of the movie?" And my sister and I are like, "Yeah, there are 2 more." And she turns to us. We hadn't even left the theater, and she just goes, I'm not coming to the other ones. You 2 go alone. And so it was like, all right, cool. Now, back to where we're at with the Matrix. We're just going to be run by AI insects. for, I guess, 3 films, maybe. I don't know. But I'm like, okay, whatever your goal is at the end of this one, you're not going to succeed in destroying the Matrix at the end of this film. That much I feel like is a given. Only because I know that there are sequels. If I didn't know that there are sequels, I would have been like, yeah, all right, cool, we're going to destroy the Matrix. Let's go. We still might destroy the Matrix. I don't know. After he died, the Oracle prophesied his return and that his coming would hail the destruction of the Matrix. And I was like, oh, Neo is the prophet. And then I was like, wait, but Neo can't be the prophet because they're supposed to fail. But now knowing that it was meant to be a trilogy, maybe they succeed at the end of the trilogy. So, like, he may be the prophet and they will succeed. I don't know. At the end of the war, we bring freedom to our people. Some of them have spent their entire lives searching for the Matrix, looking for him, and he did what he did because he believes that the search is over. Neo spins around and looks like Morpheus, like, what in the world are you telling me? I am not this so-called prophet. And Morpheus tells him to rest. He will need it for training. Incredible scene. Fantastic scene.
And I think this is where he calls him the One, isn't it?
It's where he pretty much tells him, like, you are this prophet.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't outwardly say, you are the one yet, but, like, he's like, you're smart. It's you. Now, we're at training, and supposed to start with operation programs first, but that's major boring shit. And it's time for something more fun, combat training. Tank is a menace, and I am here for it. I am going to be really upset if Tank dies. Now, we're learning jiu-jitsu. Neo feels a spark, and it goes, like, through his body, almost like an electromagnetic wave is being sent through his body. There's a shot going through his body, and he likes how he felt. Ooh, it's tingling. And now they're programming his brain. Okay, sure, this is what we can do now. Neo has been going for 10 straight hours. He now learns Kung Fu, and Morpheus says, show me. And we're thrown into a simulation sparring program, similar to the program reality of the Matrix world, and the same basic rules like gravity apply. What Neo must learn to do is how do these rules differ than the rules in a computer system. Some rules can be bent, some rules are meant to be broken. Neo understands this. I'm glad he does, because I've understood that this can happen on a computer. I don't know how to do any of that on a computer, but I understand that it can happen. Morpheus then says, hit me if you can.
Well, I'd say you want to think about it more like a lucid dream. So, like, if you know you're dreaming, you can change the rules of the dream. And I think that's really what they're alluding to with this.
Right. And I think it's very interesting because it's like the way when you're playing a video game, right? And you use that cheat code. It almost felt like a cheat code to me, where it's like, we know that we're playing a video game, but poor Link over there doesn't know that he's in a video game. But then it's like, if Link finds out that he's in a video game, then he can just be like, okay, I can just use all the cheat codes and get whatever I want.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I look at it, and like how I was understanding it, of like, okay, like, think of it this way and you will understand the ladders that we're jumping through. Neo goes in to hit Morpheus. They start sparring. Neo can't land a single hit. He's slightly coffee. Morpheus gives him the classic finger come here signal. Love it. Neo charges at him, flies in the air, throws kicks in the air. After some more, Neo gets kicked around and punched around a bit. And he goes to kick at Morpheus's chest. Morpheus grabs his foot, spins Neo. Neo spins like 7 times and then slams onto the floor. But apparently this has all been good. He's adapting. He's improvising. Weakness is not technique. Neo attacks again. Meanwhile, Mouse comes down and tells everyone that Morpheus is fighting Neo, and everyone rushes out. Incredible, perfect, no notes. Neo keeps trying, but Neo can't land a hit on Morpheus, and he is tossing him around like a rag doll. Morpheus is tossing Neo around like a rag doll. It is not the other way around. Morpheus tosses him across the room, and then jumps very high in the air, hovers there for a second, and then comes down. Neo spins out of the way just in time. Morpheus breaks the floor with his landing. They flip each other, and then there's like a leg sweep at some point. I lost track in this fight. There was a whole lot going on, And Neo does a wall run, all cool like. He lands behind Morpheus, just to then get kicked so hard he flies into a wooden beam and snaps it. Incredible. Great fight.
Oh,
fantastic fight choreo.
Is it the choreography? And this is amazing, without a doubt. It's one of the top things about this movie.
Yeah. And I will do my best. No promises that my fights are going to be accurate. Go watch the fights.
And if you like the way these fights are starting to play out, there was a movie that came out a couple years later called Equilibrium, where the phrase gung fu came from. So if you like this kind of fighting, they took it to a whole nother level. Now, both this movie and that movie were in production at the same time, so they didn't steal from each other. But it has a lot of that sort of feel of the way these fights are choreographed and the involvement of weapons at the same time.
Lovely. Yeah. I love when movies just, it's like, hey, two different people have two slightly similar but also different ideas just at roughly the same time when things got greenlit.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like, hey, I'm not stealing from you. You're not stealing from me. Our ideas are just slightly similar, but also there's enough of a difference where they are two different movies.
It's like Armageddon and Deep Impact coming out the same year.
I'm going to act like I know what that means.
Oh, they're both movies about an asteroid's coming to destroy the planet. One it involves basically they send oil drillers to the asteroid to blow it up because that makes more sense than just training astronauts on how to use drills. And the other one, Deep Impact, is Samuel Jackson. Not Samuel Jackson. I forgot what his name is. He's the president. Basically it's a more serious movie of trying to blow up an asteroid before it kills everyone on the planet. But they both came out the same year, so it's two movies. One's a Michael Bay movie, so very flashy, big explosions, a lot of American flags. And then the other one, Deep Impact, is the more serious movie. But yeah, both came out within a couple months of each other.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's fun. Yeah, no, in terms of like similarity between movies, they didn't come out in the same year, but I did really enjoy the one that floated around the internet recently, that Monsters University and Wicked are the same film.
I did. That might be. I haven't seen Wicked yet.
Okay. The bare bones of why they're saying this. Aunt, I apologize if you can't get rid of the garbage truck that's outside. I don't know if you can hear it, Chris.
No, I can't.
But okay, great. Then Aunt, we might be good. Then delete this bit out. The bare bones of that theory is that the main character is a green character that is naturally gifted but looked down upon by society. Their roommate, when they go off to school, is the popular one, and who is the one that everything has been handed to, the naturally gifted one. Or the not naturally gifted with the skills, but naturally gifted with the status. They don't have the skills. But the green one has the skills. And everyone looks down on the green one. And then it's breaking the mold. This is the very, very rough bare bones that I'm going to give you as to not spoil Wicked for you. So, but that's the general idea of why everyone was like, they're the same movie. And I just laughed when I saw that one. I was like, yeah, all right, that's good.
That's funny.
Like, at the base structure of how this works, they are right. Now, Morpheus calmly, after kicking Neo into a wooden beam, just goes, how did I beat you? Neo says that he's too fast, and Morpheus says, do you believe that me being stronger or faster has anything to do with muscles in this place? Neo nods no. You think that's air you're breathing now? Neo looks confused. Morpheus just says, give us some answers, because, ladies and gentlemen that are listening, I have watched about an hour and a half into this film as I'm recording this right now. I still have not been told if what they are not breathing or what they're breathing is air or not. I need an answer. Are they breathing air? What are they breathing if they're not breathing air? And if they're not breathing air, what is it? Because humans need oxygen. What?
Well, remember, Neo's body is breathing air, but what you're experiencing, no, that's just a simulation. It's like playing a video game. The characters in the video game aren't
Oh,
playing it. They don't need the air. It's your body who is playing the game needs the air, and he's getting that air inside the Nebuchadnezzar.
okay. So it's that same thing. Link doesn't need the air.
Hmm?
We need the air as the person controlling Link. So in the simulation, he doesn't need air.
Yeah, in the simulation, those are that's your avatar. That is not you, which is why you can break the rules. It's like why you can do a double jump in a game. Doesn't make any sense in reality, but in the game you can do that. And the reason why you mentioned before about he does that landing and the ground breaks when he lands, because
Yeah.
what that is the game engine is trying to accommodate what it just experienced. He made a jump that's not possible, but so it said, well, if that amount of force were to hit the ground, this is what would have happened to that ground. So that's why he never does a soft landing, because the engine of the game is trying to accommodate what rules are being broken at this point.
This makes so much more sense. See, this is why I always have a guest on who knows what we're talking about, because I'm confused most of the time. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I've understood now. Now I won't be annoyed for the last 45 minutes of the film as I watch this. Being like, what are they breathing? Okay, so he is breathing, but he's getting it on the ship. He doesn't need it in the fight.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, Morpheus says, again, everyone is watching. It feels like there is more of the crew that we haven't met yet, or just some very fun camera work to make it look that way. And I think it's the very fun camera work. Well done to the camera operators. Because it definitely looked like there were more than just the names that we had met in that quick shot. Morpheus attacks. They're moving very fast. Mouse says this as well. And he says, their neurokinetics, they're way above normal. And I like how Tank just chuckles and pulls Mouse's hands away from the readings. Like, this is not the first time Mouse has freaked out by this or like been geeked out by this. And Tank's like, yeah. All right, just don't touch anything.
Yeah.
Like,
This is my stuff.
Don't touch it. You can geek out, but like, don't touch it. Morpheus holds a punch back that would have hit Neo in the face. Neo stumbles backwards, and Morpheus asks what he's waiting for. He's faster than this. And I was annoyed, and I was like, I don't know. Knowing what he's breathing might help. We've understood what's going on. Don't think you are, know you are. I love that line. That is a beautiful line that I think is relevant to not just this moment, but to everyone. Don't think you are, know you are. Don't think you're capable of something, know you're capable of something, and you're going to be able to accomplish more. Have the confidence that you can do it. Even if it's false confidence, have some level of confidence that you can do it.
Or some call it fake it till you make it.
Yeah, that's really just all it is. And that's what I tell my kids as I'm teaching them, because I'm an acting teacher and things like that as well in new theaters. And what I tell them is do something, right? I'm never asking you to be perfect. I'm not asking you to have an answer, but know you are capable of making a choice, right? Know you are capable. Know that you are smart. Know that I trust you and that you can do this. Otherwise, I wouldn't be throwing you off the deep end of the pool. But like, know that you are able and do something is all I try to get them to do. I'm like, get on stage and do something. Don't just stand there and do nothing. Do something. I don't care what that something is. If that something is becoming a puppy and being a puppy, just be an incredible puppy. Like, that's all I need you to do. I don't need you to say a single word. Just have a little bit of confidence. And I love that that's all that Neo is really needing right here. And that's what Morpheus does, is just like, hey, stop thinking. You can do this, is pretty much what he's saying.
Yeah, because very much like just back to the Matrix itself is that it's a program, right? And if you say the program, I am allowed to do this, it'll allow you to do that. If you think to yourself, I think I'm allowed to do this, it's going to, no, you can't do that. And that's essentially what it's playing into in that sense. But it's also like back to, like, if you look back to Star Wars and Yoda, no, there is no try, just do.
Yeah.
Same thing. Don't try to do this thing, just do it.
Just do it. You might fail, and it's okay. But like, it's not like Neo has succeeded so far. But like,
exactly.
Don't try, do it. You might not succeed, but do it wholeheartedly. Now, they keep going. Neo is getting close. The music builds, and then Neo has Morpheus against the wall, fist to face. Mouse can't believe it. Trinity looks at him like, rookie mistake, Mouse. How could you not believe that Neo is going to do this? Neo knows what he is trying to do. And Morpheus says, I'm trying to free your mind, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it. And Morpheus tells Tank to load the jump program. And we have to let go of all, Neo, fear, doubt, disbelief. Free your mind. Morpheus then runs and jumps off a building and lands safely on the other side of the building, which is quite far away. And then I was like, it's going to be really funny if he falls the first time and fails. Neo then goes to the edge and looks over, and he's like, free my mind. All right, I got this. Mouse asks, what if he makes it? Tank says that nobody ever makes their first jump. And then Mouse is like, but what if he does? And then they're like, he won't. And Trinity's like, come on, you can do it, under her breath. And I was like, okay, he's going to make it now. Obviously, he's going to make it now. He didn't make it. He fell instantly, and the ground was foam. I enjoyed that the ground was foam. Everyone else looked disappointed. I was proven wrong immediately. And Cypher says that everyone falls the first time, right, Trin? But then she's gone. She's disappeared. She goes away into the shadows. Neo gets unplugged. He is sore getting out of the chair. There's blood in his mouth. He thought none of that was real, but Morpheus says that your mind makes it real. If you live life in the Matrix, you can die here if your body and your life dies in the Matrix. Your body cannot live without the mind. Makes sense? Trinity brings Neo food while he's asleep. She puts it down, watches him for a second, and then leaves because, he's sleeping. Cypher is outside and says that he never remembers Trinity bringing him dinner. Cypher says that he knows that there is something about him isn't there, and, kind of chides her for believing that Neo might be the one, might be that savior that Morpheus keeps talking about. Cypher says that he's been wondering if Morpheus is sure and why he doesn't take him to go see the Oracle. We've mentioned the Oracle. I thought the Oracle died. I guess the Oracle is living. I think we'll meet the Oracle in the next episode. So Trinity says that Morpheus will take Neo when he is ready. We then start walking the streets and learning that the Matrix is a system. And the system is our enemy. When inside, you see a businessman, teachers, lawyers, the very minds of the people they are trying to save. But until they do, these people are all still part of that system. And Neo has to understand that most people are not ready to be unplugged. And many are so hopelessly dependent on the system, they will fight to protect it. We then see a woman in a red dress walk by, and my initial thought was like, she looks like she is out of place. Like she is digitally inserted into whatever is going on. She's just been placed in. But the graphics and the way that she looked in the shot of the scene, it was like, she doesn't belong here. And I put that together fairly quick. And as this is happening, Morpheus continues, it's different as everyone has been in... Oh, sorry. And we were talking about colors earlier, and I noticed it's different. Everyone's been in black this entire time until this lady in red. But everybody else has been wearing black. The teachers have been wearing black. Businessmen have been wearing black. The lawyers have been wearing black. Everybody. Which is interesting.
Yeah, she's the red flag of the scene.
Yeah, that makes very clear sense now. I paused at a moment to take a note, and I just one of the extras in the background looked like Maggie Gyllenhaal. Yeah, I don't know. This was I paused to take a note. I looked at my screen and I was like, that looks like Maggie Gyllenhaal. All right, moving on.
That's fine.
So, okay. Maybe she was in it. I don't know. Maybe she was just around that day when they were filming and they were like, we need an extra person. So, Morpheus asks if Neo was listening or looking at the woman in the red dress. Morpheus tells him it's okay. Look again. And, hey, look, it's Agent Smith with the gun. Neo ducks and Morpheus tells them to freeze it. They are in a training program meant to teach one thing. If you are not one of us, you are one of them. Fair? Very fair. I have been lucky enough to not be in a situation of war. Maybe this is the mentality that you need to have when you are in war. I don't know. I have never been in that situation. I hope to never be in that situation.
Yeah, it's situational awareness. Is that there's always a threat, potentially a threat. You got to make sure that everyone around you is not part. It's more about assumed threat unless proven otherwise.
Exactly. Now, we learned that these are sentient programs. They can move in and out of any software still hardwired to their system, means that anyone we haven't unplugged is potentially an agent. Inside the Matrix, they are everyone and they are no one. They have survived by running from the gatekeepers, and the guards, they guard the doors all the time, hold all the keys, which means sooner or later someone is going to have to fight them. Hey, look, it's going to be Neo. Everyone who has fought an agent has failed, but Neo will succeed. Morpheus says this because he saw an agent punch through concrete wall. Men have emptied entire clips at them and hit nothing but air. Yet their strength and speed are still based in a world that is built on rules. Because of that, they will never be as strong or as fast as you can be. This is all what Morpheus is telling Neo. Neo asks if Morpheus is telling him that he can dodge bullets, and Morpheus has like this mischievous smile on his face, like, yes, child, you have figured this out. And he just goes, no, when you're ready, you won't have to. And then we get a little ring from Tank going, we got some trouble. And that's where we're going to end this episode. So, yeah, this is all I know. I don't really know what the trouble is. We're going to figure out what the trouble is. I don't know what's going on. I'm still confused. I'm still on the train that Trinity is going to die at the end of the movie. She's not going to make it, sadly. As much as I like her, she's not going to make it. It's going to be a bittersweet ending. They're not going to actually succeed in destroying the Matrix in this one. They will do part of it. They will succeed in some way, shape, or form to force something. But they're not going to succeed in the overarching plan of destroying the Matrix in this one. I think that's going to take until the third movie. And yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at. I think those are most of my predictions.
Now let's see if you're right or not.
I thank you. I appreciate that you can't say much about it. Now, Chris, this has been an absolute pleasure. If people want to find your show and the things that you do online, how can they follow you? How can they find you?
Sure. You find pretty much, I would do two things. First is I run a podcast called Movie Smash. You can find that over on Facebook, Instagram, or our website, movie-smash.com. It's where we discuss movies that are based on comic books or graphic novels outside the MCU. Basically help highlight that original material. The other thing is, you always find me at Off Panel Creations, where I'm building some piece of nerdy furniture. You can find me over at Facebook or Instagram as well under that handle.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for joining. And I'm excited for you to join for the next episode when we're going to meet the Oracle and all of that fun stuff. But until then, Chris, thank you so much for joining once again. Listeners, thank you so much for listening. And until next week, I'll catch y'all later. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Post Finale. Post Finale is created and hosted by me, Ankit Madhira. It is produced by Ankit Madhira and Stephen Nieman. The music is by Ankit Madhira and Megan Hutchison. The art is by Jarid Rother, and our editor is Servellon. If you like the show, please follow us on social media at Co-op Forge, CO_OPFORGE on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook to keep up to date on everything that's happening with the podcast. And you can also follow at Post Finale Pod on Instagram if you just want updates for this show. Talk about us on social media. It really does help us out a lot. And thank you to anyone who has done this in the past or who will do this in the future. If you want to support in a monetary way and get access to some bonus content, you can do so by heading over to patreon.com/coopforge. That's patreon.com/CO_OPFORGE. And all the money raised on that Patreon goes directly back into the show to make it a better experience for you, the listeners. We just want to create good content while not being in the red while doing so. And your support means the world to us. If you can support in a non-monetary way, that's great as well. just tell a friend about the show. Word of mouth is the best way to grow the show, and it really does help us out a lot. Leave a rating or review, subscribe, follow on whatever podcast app you are listening on. If you're listening on our YouTube channel, Co-op Forge, please hit a follow. If you're listening on another app, if you could do us a favor and go hit us follow on our YouTube channel, it would help us out. If we hit 100 subscribers on our YouTube channel, we got a special thing coming out for you all. But until then, thank you all so much for listening to this episode of Post Finale, and be sure to join us next week as we get on to more shenanigans. And until then, I'll catch y'all later.